Hi friends, welcome to my channel. I'm AmandaMuse. I am a mom of two. I currently live in Canada, but I used to live in Penang, Malaysia, and oftentimes I like to reminisce about my time there and kind of stay up to date on the goings and comings of my fellow Malaysians in the world. So today we are actually going to be looking at a video called The Top 10 Scary Malaysian Urban Legends. I'm like a little bit scared because I don't do scary very well. We have just wrapped up spooky season, but you know, it's always fun to take a look at what's going on, and I thought it'd just be something kind of fun and lighthearted. Let's do it. If you're new, I would love for you to stick around and subscribe. I do often talk about my time in Malaysia, along with my current life as it is living in Canada, being an entrepreneur, a mom of two, having a marriage I'm trying to keep afloat in times of, you know, this chaos. So I hope you stick around. Okay, let's watch this video together.
Explain this series to you guys anymore, but I'll do it for all the newcomers. This is where I take a look at some of the creepy tales, both old and new, from countries all around the world. We've done quite a few now. Many of them have been great suggestions from you. This is actually one of them, and I think this might be one of the best. Let's see what you think though. My name is Danny Burke, and this is the top 10 scary Malaysian urban legends. Starting on number 10 now, we have the taxi passenger. The story goes that one night a taxi driver was working late, and as the clock ticked down to midnight, he suddenly saw a beautiful young woman standing at the corner of a traffic light junction. She had long black hair and a flowing white dress. He asked her if she needed a ride. She got in without a word. The taxi driver asked where she wanted to go. The girl simply handed him a piece of paper. It had a number and the name of a road on it. The taxi driver wasn't sure where it was and asked if she could help him. She nodded. She kept nodding every time he went the correct way, but never actually said a word. They finally reached the road. It was very narrow, just enough for one car to pass down, and it was dark. There were no working streetlights. A mist engulfed the car. He tried to peer through the fog and see the numbers on the houses, but to his horror, there were none. Just rows and rows of gravestones. He was gripped with fear and nervously asked if this was the right place. No answer came from the back seat. He continued to drive slowly, but then felt a tap on his shoulder. Too scared to turn around, he stopped the car. He heard the rustle of money and felt her hand giving him some cash. He threw it down without even counting it. He heard the back door open and then close. He then sped home without looking back. The next morning, curiosity got the better of him and he returned to the same street. It was indeed a large cemetery. He found the lot number that the girl had given him. His eyes widened in horror as he saw the woman's picture staring back at him from a fresh gravestone. He later found out the girl had died the week before in a horrific accident at the very same junction he had picked her up from. It was a hit and run, and the driver was never caught. Moving on to number 9 now, we have the yellow...
I'm just going to throw it out there that, yes, that does seem a little frightening. I'm not going to lie, I would not want to be that taxi driver. But also, in a way, kind of beautiful. Like, if this girl did get, was killed in a hit and run, how is she supposed to rest there? And maybe this person brought her to her resting place. That's kind of special. Special as it is, still don't want to be the taxi driver. Okay, number 2.
Volkswagen on Karak Highway. For many Malaysians, the Karak Highway is the most haunted road in the country. This is in part due to it having the highest accident rate in the whole of Malaysia. Aside from the reports of an eerie feeling along the road, there are some more solid stories. Perhaps the most famous is that of the yellow Volkswagen. The story goes that if you see this yellow car on the road, it will block your lane. It will then begin to slow down to a snail's pace, forcing you to overtake it. Once you do that, you'll continue on for a while until it happens again. The same yellow car will be blocking you, it will slow down, you will go past it, and then it happens again and again. After a few times you'll realise that it's actually just the same car, and what's even more creepy is that there appears to be nobody driving it. The only way to stop the cycle is to actually not overtake it. Some say that when you are overtaking it, the car will speed up and disappear into darkness. Next up at number 8 now, we have the
That's a hard sell for me. Hard sell. Driverless Volkswagen. All right, let's see what else we got.
Suyar. This is said to be the ghost of a woman who died while giving birth to a stillborn child. The mother's grief turns her into a sort of flying banshee creature. On the surface, she will look like a beautiful woman with long nails, hair down to her ankles, and dressed all in green. However, don't be fooled by their beauty. The Lang Suyar haunts coastal areas and attacks pregnant women out of jealousy. People believe you can stop a pregnant woman's corpse from becoming a Lang Suyar though. You need to place beads in her mouth, an egg in each armpit, armpit and needles on her hands. This should make it possible for her to pass on peacefully to the afterlife. If everything fails, there is said to be one way to fight a lang suyar. You cut off her long nails and stuff her hair into the hole in the back of her neck. Moving on to number 7.
What? That was scary. What? I don't like that one. First of all, starts off very sad. Nobody wants to hear about ill will or anything bad happening. What's my dog doing? Or anything bad happening to a pregnant lady. In fact, if I'm watching a television show, which I was, Handmaid's Tale, so good, but I think it was season 2, there was just some stuff happening and she was pregnant. She wasn't actually pregnant, but you know. I had to stop watching the show. I feel like my anxiety is just like too much. What a hole in the back of their head. Okay, moving on. Number 7.
The DJ. This urban legend revolves around a Malaysian radio DJ. He had a late night show in the 90s where listeners could call in to share their ghost stories. One night a man called in to share his story. He said he was driving down a highway late at night with his parents, his wife and their baby. They were all asleep in the back and he felt quite sleepy too. He saw a long...
I'm about to say something very controversial. Your subscriber count on YouTube doesn't matter. Well,
large truck coming the other way, but on his side of the road. It suddenly sped past him, but before he even had time to collect his thoughts, it happened again, and then again, and then again. It happened a few more times, each one as shocking as the last, and then it seemed to change. The truck started appearing behind him now. He realized it was chasing him. He sped up, trying not to panic. As he came over a hill, he suddenly saw a single headlight heading towards him again. He swerved violently to avoid it, but lost control of the car, crashing through the highway barrier and into a deep gully. Then he told the radio DJ that the crash had killed all of his family. He sounded distraught. Then he said the crash took his own life as well. He then hung up the phone. The DJ thought it was just a prank and laughed it off. However, the next day's newspaper had a story on the front page. It said an accident had occurred along the highway, the same one described by the caller. A car had crashed the night before, killing an elderly couple, a husband and wife and their baby. The DJ was stunned. He felt the hairs stand up on the back of his neck. He rushed to play the tape back from the mystery caller the night before, but all he found was minutes of nothing but silence. Next up at number 6 now,
Creepy. That one's creepy. I'm not sure how I feel about that one. I'm also really glad it's still daytime because I get a little nervous about this stuff. What was that?
we have the merman. In 2006, shocking pictures began circulating around Malaysian websites that seemed to show what people were describing as a merman. That's a male version of a mermaid. It was supposedly caught by a fisherman in Teluk Buhang Beach in Penang. There were 6 photos of the creature taken from various angles. They were attached to an email that was going around claiming that the newspapers were not being allowed to share these pictures. The merman appears vaguely humanoid in shape and seems to be about the size of an adult male. There were 2 long fins that resembled large ears on its head. It had 2 arms and was covered in fins from head to toe. A while after this, internet investigators claimed that the pictures had come from an eBay sale in Florida, but die-hard conspiracy theorists believe this is all just part of a cover-up and that there are more mermen out there in the Malaysian seas. At number 5 now, guys,
I do think that mermaids, mermen, whatever, I think there is some truth to that. I do not think that they're like the Little Mermaid, where they're cute and fun and pretty. I kind of like that dark, scarier version where they appear very beautiful to sailors on ships or whatever, and then they turn into their true selves and like come for the people. So I actually just had this conversation with my 8-year-old the other day. We were talking about like how it's kind of like false advertising that they make mermaids pretty, because I really think they're scary. Okay, next one.
We have the oily man. In Malaysian folklore, the oily man is a sort of supernatural being called into life and controlled by an evil witch doctor. It can cover its whole body in a black, oily substance that makes him practically invisible at night, difficult to catch, and makes breaking and entering extremely easy for him. It crawls up the walls and the sides of tall buildings. Once on top of them, it leaps from rooftop to rooftop. Some say it's like the Malaysian version of Venom, although the oily man definitely came before that. Before you say this is just an ancient creature passed down through stories, think again. As recently as 2012, there were reports of a knife-wielding oily man leaping from building to building in Malaysia.
What?
Residents of Kampung claim to have seen and heard him for 10 days. Moving on to number 4 now, we have the host.
What now? I mean, I gotta look into this. I suppose he did his research. But building to building? I mean, parkour is a thing, but like if you're all oily, you're gonna be slippy. Maybe it is true. Okay, next one, number 4.
Hotel bed. The story goes like this. A group of college friends planned a weekend trip to a Malaysian resort during their break. They booked one room with 2 beds, figuring they could save money by fitting 4 people in them. When they reached the resort, they wasted no time in seeing the local attractions for the day. They decided to freshen up back at the hotel before heading out to dinner. While one of them was lying on the bed, they complained that it felt quite lumpy, but they decided to not complain to hotel management because they already had too many people in the room and they didn't want to get caught. After dinner, they headed out to some bars before returning around midnight. When they got back, they got ready for bed. However, when they began to rearrange the mattresses to fit all of them in, they saw something truly horrific. There, sandwiched between the mattress and the bed springs, was the corpse of a woman. They ran out of the room and told hotel management. The hotel were keen to avoid any negative publicity and decided to pay the students a lot of money to keep quiet. Still, this rumour began to spread, and now many young Malaysian people will make sure to check if their hotel mattress ever feels too lumpy. Coming at number 3 now.
What? I'm sorry. If there's a corpse in my bed, I'm not sure how much money I would require to stay quiet. Okay, next.
Now we have Janet's ghost. The story goes that Janet was a young Chinese nurse in Kuching's public hospital. Legend says she disappeared around the late 1960s. This was at a time when there was an epidemic of kidnappings in the city. All the police had figured out so far was that the kidnappings may be linked to the construction of Satok Bridge. If construction of the bridge was held up, it meant that the territorial spirits were displeased. Human sacrifices had to be made to appease them. Apparently, they preferred to sacrifice virgin girls, but only use their heads. This meant they would be decapitated and their heads would be embedded in the concrete pillars to strengthen the bridge. Eventually, they found Janet's headless body, confirming the police's theory. Her grieving parents buried her in a red dress and red shoes. According to some Chinese belief systems, if a woman dies wearing red, she will return as a vengeful spirit. They say her parents did this so she could return from the dead and take revenge on her killers. Then, the sightings began. Villagers on the outskirts of the city reported seeing a mysterious woman dressed all in red. She would catch rides on motorbikes or cross ferries.
Do you sometimes find the fear of what could happen is making nothing happen in your life? If so,
by herself, would always leave behind Chinese hell notes. Her quest to find her killers continues, and she doesn't care who stands in her way. Moving on to number 2.
Okay, hold on a second. So, first of all, a couple things I don't like about this thing. I listen to a lot of true crime, and I love it, in fact. P.S. In a former life, like when I was a university student, I was actually in a forensic science program, and that was like my preferred field. So I kind of like it. But here's what I don't like. So you're telling me that someone is going around killing women, like many of them, decapitating them, they have to be virgins. I'm gonna go with a serial killer. This is not just like random. That's rude. Has to be women. Come on now. Okay, second thing is, that's news to me. In Chinese culture, you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, but if a woman dies wearing red, then she comes back and she ain't one too pleased. But red is such a prominent color isn't it, in Chinese culture? I feel like at the holiday times, everything's beautiful red and gold. So that's surprising because the chances are that a woman would be wearing red at some point and maybe more frequently. Scary. Okay, number 2.
Now we have the toyal. The name for this creature is sometimes translated in English to goblin, but it's not the kind of goblin you're probably thinking of. This thing is much more creepy, in my opinion.
I don't like
it's said to be the spirit of a small child invoked from a dead human fetus. It's traditionally described as looking like
That's
a
the
near
worst.
naked baby
I don't even
with
want to look
brownish
at it.
skin, large fangs, and sharp ears. The toyals always have a master, and the master may use it to capture other humans. It's said that the owner of the toyal may become rich beyond their wildest dreams, but there is always a price to pay when it comes to the spirit world. Becoming the master of a toyal can bring fortune, but the health of every one of the master's family will steadily decline. They will eventually lose everything and then slowly die. The toyal are evil in their behavior, but childlike in their thinking. People use this to try and distract a toyal from entering their homes. They scatter buttons on the floor, leave sweets or toys next to them in the hopes that a toyal will pass on and spare them another day. And finally,
okay, I've actually heard about that one. That freaked me right out. I did not like it. Again, babies, why do you gotta make them scary? I've heard about that urban legend, and I can't remember why that would have come out. or like in what capacity. I know that when I was pregnant, I feel like maybe it was when I was pregnant. Somebody told me something about it, which like, don't do that to a pregnant lady. Come on now. Moving on. Number 1.
Now we have the horror. Remember we were talking earlier about Karak Highway, the really haunted road? Well, we're returning for another scary story there. One day a couple were traveling down the road to return to their hometown after a relative's wedding. They decided to travel late at night and the journey was going well for a while, but then signs of trouble started. Their trusty Proton Weira began to zigzag wildly on the road. As they struggled to control it, the engine gave a last splutter and then died. The husband was shocked. He had just had the car serviced the day before. Now they were stranded.
Okay, I want to see something. Where is the Karak Highway? This is what I want to know. Okay, I was wondering if I had ever been on it. Oh, maybe I have. Let's see. Kuala Lumpur. No, I don't think. No. We've driven from KL to Penang, and there's a pretty trippy highway there, but I don't think we went on that one. Okay, back to the show.
By the road, in the middle of the night, and only about halfway to their destination. All around them was desolate hills and jungle. They kept trying to start the car over and over again, but nothing seemed to work. They gave up and decided to flag someone down for help. When that didn't work, the husband decided to try and find an emergency phone somewhere. The wife disagreed because she was afraid that he might get knocked down walking in the dark. He went anyway and told his wife to wait in the car. She waited for what felt like forever. The jungle trees seemed to shift in the dark around her. Then there was a loud thump on the roof of the car, followed by a rustling sound. She thought it was animals and decided to not get out of her car to check. Then another car's headlights began to approach from behind. The car slowed down as it passed, but then quickly sped off. She waited for hours. Other cars did the same. She began to worry more about the rustling sound from the roof and where exactly her husband was. Finally, a police car approached. It stopped a few meters away. The policeman got out and called to her using a megaphone, telling her to back away from the car slowly. When she got to the police car, she looked back out of curiosity. To her horror, she saw her husband's body on the roof of the car. There was a demonic creature feasting on his blood. It had been happening for all those hours that she was sitting in the car. The police quickly took her away and the legend began. And on that gruesome and grisly note, we will leave it there.
Dang, that's horrifying. I got to admit though, I feel like in most cultures there is that urban legend about something on like the woman and the man and the woman are in the car. I mean, I don't know why it has to be a man and a woman, but you know, they're in the car and then something happens to the car and then somebody has to get out of the car to go get help and someone's left in, it's usually the woman left in the car and she hears the rustling. And there's always this like scary urban legend. I'm pretty sure that urban legend came out recently at a fire. Like we were sitting around an outdoor fire and someone mentioned that to my kids and I'm pretty sure my kids, like either one of them or both of them started crying. So, so you have to like gauge your audience a little bit when it comes to urban legends. I can't really think of any urban legends that are like coming to my mind right now. And have I had encounters with a ghost? Maybe. I will tell you this though. The other night I was sitting here at my desk. This is where I sit, this is where I work. And I work often like late into the night. And I was really tired. I think it was the day after Halloween. Yeah, it must have been. I was super tired. I had my hair tied in a bun and I was just leaning on my hand like this and I started getting really tired. So if you figure like the distance from my head to my chair, that's how I was sitting at my computer. And I was like, oh my goodness, I'm so tired. I could just sleep. Like I thought I was falling asleep at my desk and I felt a tug at my hair. And my hair was just tied, it was tied back, so it wasn't hanging out. It couldn't have got caught up in the chair. The blanket was around my legs. I was like, huh. So I'm sitting here, I feel a tug at my hair. Both sets of my grandparents have died, and so they're no longer with us. And something told me that it was like my grandmother come to like give me a yank and tell me to go to bed. So I listened. I kind of had a chuckle and I was like, okay, it's bedtime, closed my computer, shut it down, went to bed. But I've never had like a scary encounter with maybe spirits or ghosts. I always find it's very comforting. So it's unfortunate that these stories all end up being scary because this is one of the reasons I have trouble sleeping at night. I don't do scary. Let me know in the comments if you know any freaky urban legends from your country, or if you're like me and you just like stay away from the scary things and stay only in the light. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you stick around and subscribe, and I'll see you next week with some brand new videos. Bye guys.